Hello everyone. Have you ever felt that your life was just spiraling a little bit too out of control? Too much to do, too much on your mind, hard to focus? Maybe you were starting to do some goofy things? How many of us have seen a car driving down the road with the coffee cup on the roof of the driver's side of the car? Well, it's called multitasking. And we're going to talk about that today at Memory Matters for All Ages. I'm Janelle Nichols, and I want to welcome back to the program Catherine Kilpatrick. She is a speech-language pathologist with over 40 years of experience. She is a national speaker, author of over 30 publications. She works with individuals, coaching, training staff at businesses. Catherine, welcome back. And I can't believe that this is our 7th program on multitasking. 7th month.
Yes.
And I think that it is something that's very near and dear to many of our hearts. And we've gotten a great response from these programs.
Right.
And even I personally have benefited from the tips that you have given on this subject.
I'm laughing as you describe what I do in a normal day, and I'm going, we could have a whole show with my little multitasking. We're not sharing some of those stories, Janelle. You're a good friend. You know what I find interesting is that there are so many articles every week on multitasking.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I've learned a lot as well. So distracted? Do you get distracted?
I'm afraid I do, and I did leave out the one part, and I won't mention the name of my relative, but not just the coffee cup, but her entire purse was on top of the car as she drove down the road. That's distracted.
Yeah.
And I do find it hard to focus. I mean, no matter what we call it, it's too much going on in our heads.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have some tips for us?
Well, I think what we want to understand a little bit more is the distraction issue, because I think that's really important. So let's talk about, what are your distractions? Where are they coming from? I know where mine are coming from. I have to pack my car for therapy, for a meeting this evening, for doing the TV show, and whatever else I'm going to do along the way. It could be things you're doing in the house. It could be things at work, people at work. It may be children, you know, and especially if you're not used to having little ones underfoot and you're either visiting or they come to see you, that could be an issue. Second thing to look at is you may be more distracted because you're not using good lifestyle choices, and we talked about that in some previous shows. If you're tired, you're not be able to focus as well. We talk a lot about water and dehydration and needing to make sure that you're drinking enough. Or if you just had a day for you after the Super Bowl or something like that, like a lot of junk food type things. So, and interesting, here's another one of these studies. I just get so fascinated by this. This was in the New England Journal of Medicine. And it talks about drivers, especially the younger ones, are more at risk for accidents when they're focusing on a secondary task, which is, you know, the texting, but it could be the eating, it could be changing, you know, a station or whatever. But this was what fascinated me. Drivers spend 10% of their time, all ages, looking at something other than the road.
Wow, that's frightening.
So what we want to talk about are, you know, do you crave that rushing and busyness? Okay, because that can happen with some people. And there's a wonderful book called Crazy Busy, and you know, it would be a great one to look at, but I think I shared with you one time all the words that were on there, and there was one that fascinates me, megaloctopus, okay? Things that keep you from doing what you want to do. So how often are we so busy doing all that stuff and we didn't get time for the exercise or the eating or just spending time with a friend? And then the third thing under these things to think about is being aware of procrastination. It is a time leech, okay? And the Ohio principle I love, only handle it once. And I got to tell you what, now that I'm packing and I'm getting closer to when I'm going to put my house up for sale, I am definitely dumping things that 7 months ago in the paperwork department I thought, well, maybe I can use this in the future. I'm like, I don't think so. So.
You know, my husband, a while back, a couple months ago, he read a book called Do It Now. And he was making me crazy because he was quoting it. It was about procrastination and getting organized. And the premise was do it now, do it now, do it now. And he would say it 3 times. But I do find that phrase ringing in my ears now when I'm thinking about putting something off. Do it now. I love that. Only handle it once. Yep. Get it finished. So these tips that you're giving us today, as I listen to you, aren't we talking mainly about time management?
We are, but I read an interesting article and I loved how this gentleman described it. And actually it was the man that wrote Crazy Busy, Dr. Hallowell. And if you make sure that you look at the blog that goes with each one of our programs, there are links to all of this information and you'll find it very, very helpful. But he calls it not so much time management, but attention management, which I think is an interesting term. And you know, when we're talking the only handle it once, one of the things I came up with towards the end of the year, because the holidays made me pretty crazy trying to do that in addition to sorting, and I got one large file that holds the hanging files, and I put it in an area that's out there in the open, and anything that comes into my house right now, if it's in that major category, so it might be, you know, the sales tax I need to pay, something like that. Instead of putting it in one of the many drawers where it belongs, anything that's coming in after the first of the year is going in that file. So in, you know, 4 or 5 months, I can just move that and integrate it back in, but I can get on it just like that because it only knows where the boxes are going to end up. So it's been interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah. I really like that attention management.
Really is.
I like that.
And we've done
term.
so many programs on the need to pay attention and focus.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
So here's some tips that we might try. These are some things I've done and suggested with some of the clients that I work with who may have a mild memory impairment. First of all, organize and order things in the order of either priority or time. Okay? Is this going to be a quick task to do, or is this going to be a longer task to do? So for me, right now, the things I've got listed are the hot items, the priorities, the things I need to do. And unfortunately, most of those are pretty long. But then I have other things that I need to do that may only take a little bit of time. So they're going over on the other list. And what I find is sometimes, you know, I'm into this creating and writing or in paperwork, and I need a break. So I go to the short list and pick something there that might only take me 15 or 20 minutes and not engage my brain with so much executive functioning. So it gives me kind of that time out. Then I can go back a little bit more refreshed. Doesn't help to go from one complex task to another one.
I love that idea too, and that also would help with your attitude as far as helping you feel like you are accomplishing something. You're moving in the right direction. So I love that. I love that too.
You know, it's like making the doctor's appointment that I need to, you know, down the road a couple of months. And so rather than having that short list, it's like, you know what, my creativity
takes a couple minutes.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah.
On hold forever.
That's
so
a great
that's
idea.
One thing to do. The other thing is to organize related tasks to reduce the mental processing burden. So before we've talked about switching back and forth, and that we're really task switching, not multitasking. So if you're doing, like if I'm writing a script for this, and then I'm writing a blog, and then I'm writing a speech for something I'm doing out of town, and then I'm doing my home health paperwork. You know, if I'm switching back and forth, you know, oh, I'll switch to the paperwork for a few minutes and then come back and forth. That, excuse me, mental processing burden is huge. Okay, so we need to figure out ways that we just are better organized with that and be more aware. And we've talked about that. You got to notice, you know, we get on that automatic pilot. And I am very guilty, that's why I'm talking about it. Sometimes it's like I'm stuck, but then I don't go to something simpler. I go to something that's not exactly related, and it really, then I go back and it's taking me, as the research shows, longer to get back to where I was. And then task switching really defeats the purpose, so you have to be careful with that. You can do it in chunks of time, and that's a huge part. So over the weekend, I decided on Sunday morning I was going to spend the whole day creating the scripts for the month of April, and just outline them. And I didn't do anything else. The phone rang, and I just stayed with that. And it was so much more efficient. So trying to chunk your time a little bit more instead of, oh, let's check the phone. And it was quiet on a Sunday morning, so that was good. But the other thing is to, turn off the email alerts, the phone, or, whatever, so that you can, do those things more effectively. And the other thing is create a mini break, silence. Don't use it to check the email. Just do something for you. Look out and watch the birds or the squirrels or the deer eating my plants or whatever else might be going on. So those can be some tips that if we're aware, we can kind of incorporate them, and the multitasking isn't handling us. We're more in charge consciously.
In my younger days, I didn't have to write anything down. I had it all right here, but I have to write everything down now. And I will write them in a priority order, or even numbering them. And if I get down to number 5 and number 5 is not accomplished, then number 5 becomes number 1 on the next day.
Right.
And that has been a strategy that has really helped me.
But it's that awareness.
Absolutely. It is helping me to focus. And like you said, this chunking your time, the phone rings or someone comes into the office and you get distracted, you get pulled away. If you can truly block out that time, you can be very effective. Plus, you also feel a sense of accomplishment because you finished completely a task.
And you don't have to go back and forth.
Don't have to go back.
Okay. In the last couple of minutes, why don't you talk about the program that's going to be in our area?
Sure.
And
there is a program that Kathy is going to be the speaker of. It's called Upgrade Your Memory Fitness Routine. It's going to be held at the Gables of Hudson Assisted Living Residence, which is right on Darrow Road, right across from Joanne Fabric. You can't miss it. It's going to be March 20th. At 10 in the morning. Now, there is no cost for this program. Kathy will be speaking, and I have it on good authority. There's going to be some refreshments thrown in, too, for good measure. But this is a precursor to a memory fitness group that you are forming. So this is more of an informational program. I would urge you to come March 20th at 10 in the morning. Kathy will be there. Learn about the memory group that she's forming. It's going to be just outstanding. I just love Kathy's vision on this, and you will too. To reserve your space for this program, you need to call the Gables of Hudson. That number is 330-653-9170. And that program is March 20th. And I know you've got to be looking forward to that.
Well, and we're going to bring your thinking mind with you and be well rested because we're going to do about an hour of brain games before we have that meeting.
Very good.
So to do this week, I think you want to put time in your schedule, which we don't, for sleeping adequately instead of getting that 4 or 5 hours, and making sure that you're making some nutritious foods and all that type of thing. I think that's really, really important. And exercising, or just 20 minutes to unplug, and relax.
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, Kathy, I want to remind our audience of a couple of things. First of all, watch at the end of our program, and you can see Kathy's website, how to contact her, her blog. That has more information about today's program. Also, many of you might not realize that Kathy does individual coaching. She has done coaching for overtaxed business people, busy folks. Also for businesses, she will go in and train staff at businesses. So again, watch at the end of the program and you can see how to contact Kathy. Kathy, you usually close us out with a quote. What do you have for us today? Okay.
When we get too caught up in the busyness of the world, we lose connection with one another and ourselves. And that's by Jack Kornfield.
Very good. Kathy, thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us. Now go and make it a great day.